And Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hari Hari Bol. So you have to be a little patient with me because things didn't go exactly as we planned. We had hoped to do a little slideshow, but as you can see, our screen has been, it was a casualty of the wedding, so it has to be put back up. So just be. So on this 20th day of February, the glorious appearance day of Lord Nityananda Prabhu in San Diego, we're trying to say a little bit of something in glorification of Lord Nityananda under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. So we'll begin with a verse that I like to say every day when we greet the deities. It's a wonderful verse for offering obeisances to Gaur Nitai. Some of you may have Gaur Nitai deities or pictures of Gaur Nitai at your home. This is an ideal verse. It's the second verse in the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we don't have any sheets or anything, so I'll just say it, and those who can repeat may know it. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityanando Sahodito, Godo Dehe Pushpavanto, Chitra Shandao Tamonudao. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda, that's Bengal, to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. This is an original verse by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, who was a little bit later than Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, but he wrote this wonderful biography called the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Srila Prabhupada gives a nice little commentary on this verse, and this appears, oh heavens, why is this not working? Okay, give me a second here. Okay, that worked. This is text 94 of the first chapter of the Adi Lila. Krishna Bhakti Bharik Yata Shubha Shubha Karma Seya Ekajiver Agyan Tomo Dharma. All kinds of activities, both auspicious and inauspicious, that are detrimental to the discharge of transcendental loving service to Lord Sri Krishna are actions of the darkness of ignorance. So Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda have arisen like the sun and the moon to dissipate this ignorance. Srila Prabhupada explains, the poetical comparison of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda to the sun and the moon is very significant. The living entities are spiritual sparks, and their constitutional position is to render devotional service to the Supreme Lord in full Krishna consciousness. So-called pious activities and other ritualistic performances, pious or impious, as well as the desire to escape from material existence, are all considered to be coverings of these spiritual sparks. The living entities must get free from these superfluous coverings and fully engage in Krishna consciousness, devotional service. The purpose of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda is to dispel the darkness of the soul. Before their appearance, all these superfluous activities of the living entities were covering Krishna consciousness. But after the appearance of these two brothers, people's hearts are becoming cleansed, and they are again becoming situated in the real position of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmidatamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Can someone douse this incense? It's a bit choking for me. Just see if you can turn it over or something. Thank you. So, Srila Prabhupada explains in many places in the biographies of Lord Chaitanya, specifically Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat, explain the ontological position of Lord Nityananda in relation to Lord Chaitanya. It's understood that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually Krishna himself. This is explained at the beginning of this book, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that he comes in this age in a covered incarnation. Krishna comes in the previous age, Dwapara Yuga, as we know, the famous Krishna in Vrindavan and Mathura and Dwarka, and enacts his Leela, speaks the Bhagavad Gita, arranges the Mahabharata, rides on the chariot of Arjuna, and eventually goes back after 125 years. So that's in the Dwapara Yuga, 5,000 years ago. But what about us in the Kali Yuga? The Kali Yuga is an age in which it's very difficult to practice yoga. We don't live very long, we're misguided, we're lazy in the matter of spiritual life, and even if we try to find some spiritual guidance, chances are that we'll get cheated. So this is not such a good age for self-realization and God-realization, but that is, according to Bhagavad Gita and all the Vedic scriptures, the purpose of human life. So what's to be done? So Krishna, seeing that, and wishing to bless us, he comes in this avatar called the Golden Avatar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He doesn't appear with the flute. He doesn't appear like Lord Ram with the bow and arrows. He's not like Lord Nrsingadev. He looks like an ordinary human being. He appears in Bengal in 1486 in a place called Mayapur. And at first, Lord Chaitanya did not demonstrate or manifest what we call now the Sankirtan movement, this chanting of the holy name. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, we're going to have, if the child, I'm sorry, is what we call the Yuga Dharma. This is explained in the Shastras. Kali Santaran Upanishad declares that these 16 names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It says in that Upanishad, you can search through all the Vedas, but you will never find a better means for counteracting these difficulties of the age of Kali than chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. So at a certain point, after about 20 years, Lord Chaitanya, he manifested this Sankirtan. He began to preach this chanting. Now meanwhile, Lord Nityananda, who was about 10 years older than he was, he appeared in a place called Ekachakra, which is what, about 100 miles from Mayapur? Something like that. He had a wonderful childhood, as Lord Chaitanya did. He was the son of Hadai Pandit, and was it Padmavati, I think? And he was beloved by everyone in the Ekachakra village. And he showed a tremendous affinity for enacting the pastimes of Krishna and Ram when he was a child. And of course, everyone, they would tell him the Ramayana and everything, but he knew pastimes that weren't told in the Ramayana. And he was always playing with his friends and enacting them, and they were having just a wonderful time. And after, he was about 10 years old, I think, or maybe 12, when a sannyasi came to town. And Hadai Pandit, being very pious, he, of course, gave him a place to stay, and he served him while he was there. And then the sannyasi asked him, and then I need a favor from you. I need some alms. And Hadai Pandit, whatever you want, we'll give you. This is. So he said, I want to take your son with me as a servant on traveling around the holy places. And this was like a spear in the heart of Hadai Pandit. Because he loved his son so much, but he had to agree to let him go. So Nityananda started traveling around, and it's understood that this is Lakshmipati Tirtha, who's one of the great acharyas in the line coming down in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line. And I'm from Madhvacharya, actually. And they went traveling all to the holy places, just like Balaram did. If you read the 10th canto, the Krishna book, you'll find that Balaram, during the Battle of Kurukshetra, he went traveling to the holy places and the many pastimes that occurred there. So Nityananda, who is actually Balaram in form of Nityananda, expansion, he went traveling also. He went up to all the holy places, went to Vrindavan, and he stayed there when he landed there. He met Madhavendra Puri and other great souls. And then he stayed there waiting for Lord Chaitanya to manifest his Sankirtan movement. And finally, when Lord Chaitanya did, then he came down to Navadvip, and he stayed in the house of Nandanacharya. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's right near our place in Mayapur, isn't it? Nandanacharya's place. It's still there. You can go if you visit Mayapur. And Lord Chaitanya said, a great personality has arrived. Now go and find him. And all his intimate associates went, but they couldn't find Nityananda. So Lord Chaitanya, now you follow me. I know where he is. And he went straight to Nandanacharya's house. And there was this first meeting. And it was very, very emotional, you know. And in order to show what a state Nityananda was in, he had, I think, Madhava Ghosh chant a beautiful verse from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, describing how Krishna is entering into the forest. Barha pidam hatabadavapu karneyo karnikaram, which means, with lovely peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's wood with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. So when Lord Nityananda heard this, in Sanskrit of course, he went into high ecstasy, and he manifested all kinds of symptoms of ecstasy, crying and hair standing on end, falling on the ground, and they couldn't restrain him. He was dancing, and it went on for at least an hour. And finally, Lord Chaitanya, he embraced him tightly, and then he calmed down. And this was the first time that the devotees had seen anyone who had manifested such ecstatic symptoms. And so then Lord Nityananda became a close associate of Lord Chaitanya in preaching the Sankirtan movement. And they had many pastimes in Navadvip. And the most famous of them, Lord Chaitanya, he sent out, Haridas Thakur was also then there in Navadvip. He had come. He had associated with Advaita Acharya, and then he was part of the team, Lord Chaitanya's preaching team. So Lord Chaitanya said, now we're going to begin trying to help everyone to chant Hare Krishna. So here's my basic instruction. And this is, we can take it today also. Bolo Krishna, Bojo Krishna, Koro Krishna, Shika. Now most of you may not know what that means. So I put it in a little poem. It says, just chant Shri Krishna's name and worship him with all your heart. Follow his instructions and to others them impart. So this is what they went out. They would go around to all the homes and say, Bolo Krishna, Bojo Krishna, Koro Krishna, Shika. And many of the people, seeing their wonderful devotion and their ecstasy, they would agree. So in this way, the Sankirtan movement was started. But then they came upon these two rascals, Jagai and Madhai. And they had, although they had been born in Brahmin families, they had become very fallen. They were drunkards, they were dacoits, they were thieves. People would give them a wide berth. They were Brahmins after all, but they had lost their rabbinical culture. So they did all kinds of nasty things. But one thing they didn't do was blaspheme the devotees. And so that was their saving grace. So when Haridas and Nityananda, when they first encountered them, Nityananda said, oh, there's some good prospects for preaching. And all the townspeople said, well, they warned them. Said, no, don't go near them. It's very dangerous. They're total atheists. They'll be a terrible experience. So Nityananda said, no, I'm going. So Haridas said, are you sure you want to do this? And he said, yes. So Bolo Krishna, Bojo Krishna, Koro. And before he finished, Madai and Jagai and Madai became enraged, and they started hurling epithets, and finally they started running after them and to attack. And Nityananda and Haridas started running away. Now luckily they were so intoxicated that they couldn't run very fast, and they finally just ran in a circle and fell down on the ground. And Haridas was telling Nityananda, I told you, now you got us into trouble. So they went back to Lord Chaitanya and reported what happened. Next day, the same thing. Nityananda approaches. This time, Madai threw a shard. You know what a shard of a pot is? A broken pot. He threw it at Nityananda and struck him on the head, and blood began to pour out. Very, very serious. And Nityananda, how did he react? He kept repeating, Bolo Krishna, Bojo Krishna. Just, I don't care about the blood. You just chant. Now, this struck the heart of Jagai. Jagai was a little saner. And when Madai was going to throw another pot, he held his hand. He said, no, don't you stop it. Don't you see he's a saintly person? He's already bleeding like that. So by this time, word had gotten back to Lord Chaitanya that Nitai had been attacked and he was injured, and he became blazing like fire. And he came running in order to annihilate the miscreant, and Krishna invoked his chakra. So meanwhile, Madai and Jagai, when they saw Lord Chaitanya coming like blazing fire, and they fell on the ground and trembled in fear. And Lord Chaitanya said, you have attacked my Nitai, and injured him, then I must destroy you. And they were petrified, they were actually paralyzed. And then Nityananda, he intervened and he held the arm of Lord Chaitanya. He said, no, this Jagai, he actually saved me. So he's a pious soul. So Lord Chaitanya said, okay, so I give you my blessings. And Jagai became ecstatic. Suddenly he's crying in ecstasy. He'd become a devotee. He's purified just by Lord Chaitanya's blessing. So Madai also said, oh, please, I need it also. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, you were the one who attacked, So you have to get the blessing of Nityananda. See, Nityananda said to Lord Chaitanya, everybody in this Kali Yuga is like Jagai Madai. So if you're going to kill them, then you have to destroy everyone in this age. So he was speaking in this way. So Madai surrendered to Nityananda and begged for mercy, and Nityananda forgave him. And they both got prema bhakti. Very significant, because they were the most sinful. But they became completely cleansed by the influence of Lord Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the pastime goes on, and they were accepted in the community of devotees, and this experience, is very important for us, because it means that no matter how sinful you are, whatever your background is, whatever your birth is, your social station, your gender, doesn't matter, your educational level, everybody has an opportunity to enter into the house of bhakti by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and especially Nityananda. Now, another reason why Nityananda is so important, because he represents the spiritual master. He's an expansion of Balaram, or Balaram himself. And Balaram, we learn in the Krishna book, Bala means strength. Now, of course, he displayed and liked to display. Ram means he enjoyed displaying his physical strength. And if you read the pastimes, he killed so many demons with his strength. But more important for us is that the spiritual master, he gives spiritual strength to practice devotional service. So all the gurus, all the instructing and initiating gurus, they actually represent Balaram, and in modern age they represent Nityananda. Without approaching Nityananda, one cannot approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just as without approaching the spiritual master, one cannot approach Krishna. So this is a very important principle of Lord Chaitanya. Now I wanted to read a few, we have several things. One is a poem by Vrindavandas Thakur. Vrindavandas Thakur was a direct disciple of Nityananda, and he was the first biographer of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His Chaitanya Bhagavat is an extraordinary biography of Lord Chaitanya. And Krishna's Kaviraj, he gives great deference. Those who read the Chaitanya Charitamrita in several places, he gives great deference to Vrindavandas Thakur. He calls him the Vyas of Chaitanya Leela. And Krishna's Kaviraj expanded in detail many of the pastimes that Vrindavandas Thakur didn't have room or time to record, especially the latter pastimes. So, being a disciple of Nityananda, naturally, in great depth, he describes the pastimes and the position of Lord Nityananda in his book Chaitanya Bhagavat. So I highly recommend it. It's completely available. If you can't find it, just write to me or call me or whatever. We make the Chaitanya Bhagavat available to you, digitally or otherwise. But he wrote a wonderful ashtaka. An ashtaka is 8-verse poem about Nityananda. It's called the Shri Nityananda Ashtaka. And I'm going to chant that for you, and it's also, I put it into poetic form. And there's a very nice refrain that you can learn tonight, and you can chant it. And the refrain goes like this, as a coming attraction. Our friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, please worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. This is the refrain. Every verse ends in that line. It's Sanskrit, of course. So you see, we were going to do a slideshow, but it didn't happen. But before we do that, if this works as I had hoped, there's a few little things I wanted to read. There's so much material on Lord Nityananda. It's not possible to do justice to it. But there's many songs that have been written, and I just want to share a few of them. We won't get into the Bengali or anything, but I just want to read the English translation. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written this Dalera Gita, which is about Lord Nityananda opening up the marketplace of the holy name. And you know what the price is? Your faith. Your faith. That's the only price. And you can buy that holy name. So I'll just read this translation. It's beautiful. Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, I'm singing news of the great holy tidings. Lord Nityananda himself has opened a marketplace of the holy name in Surabhi Kunj. Surabhi Kunj is a place in the Navadvip area where Bhaktivinoda Thakur built a house. He is selling the pure holy name in that marketplace for the price of only one's faith. Lord Nityananda, seeing all the devotees becoming attracted, is selling them the holy name after bargaining with them. Oh brother, if you want the holy name, then come with me. We must go to that great soul, Nityananda. You will get the name of Krishna. I will take my commission, Bhaktivinoda speaking, and all of our desires will be fulfilled. So it's like a market, Lord Nityananda is greatly merciful. Taking only one's faith, he gives the highest ecstasy. If he sees only once tears in the eyes while one chants the name of Gaur, that's the name of Lord Chaitanya, the golden one, then he gives everything to that person. He gives the pure teachings of Krishna to everyone, not caring for their birth, their wealth, their knowledge, or their strength. Now, giving up the illusory snare of Maya, either remain in household life or in the forest as a sannyasi, for no more troubles remain. There's no more fear of the age of Kali. The merciful Nityananda has given the holy name to even the chandalas, the outcasts. Bhaktivinoda calls out, except for the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, there is no other shelter. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Now, this one more. This is one that if you ever hear a class by who is that? Forgive me, there's a senior moment. The devotee in San Jose who distributes books. Vaisheshika Prabhu, excuse me, Vaisheshika Prabhu. He always sings this song. Boro Sukha Kabogai Sodabi Content. He often sings it. So this is a similar thing. Okay, this is we had. Here it is. The Doyle Nitai Chaitanya Bole Nache Rama Amrara. Those who remember this? So the meaning is this. Chanting the holy names, Doyle Nitai Chaitanya means most merciful Nitai Chaitanya. My mind dances, oh my mind dances. Oh, such a merciful personality as Nityananda Prabhu is not to be found anywhere. He suffers a beating from Jagai Marai. Shri Shri Gauranatai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadraji ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Giridhari ki jai. He had suffered a beating from Jagai Marai, and still he gives them love of God. Oh, when your offenses are vanquished, you will obtain the treasure of love of God. But in these names of Chaitanya and Nitai, there is no consideration of offenses. Once you have a taste for the holy name of Krishna, bondage to this world will come to an end. Or when there is attachment to the holy name of Krishna, then very easily the life of a living being becomes successful. Without affection for Krishna, life is simply useless. At the end of life, you will obtain the beautiful vision of Radha and Shyama in Vrindavan, if the mercy of Lord Gaur is received. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari. So we're going to end with this poem about Lord Nityananda. And, okay, here we are. I'm sorry, I forgot to bring my little music box with the tambura, but... All right, I'll give you a little taste for the Sanskrit, then we'll just do the English. Sarat Chandra Brantim Spadadamalakantim Gajakatim Hare Premon Mattam Dritapadam Sadvam Smitamukam Sada Gonanetram Kalakalita Vaidam Kalikalita Vetram Kalibadam Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajanata Dukandan Nidavadi beside the splendor of his golden form and smiling face. The splendor of the autumn moon appears most commonplace. Because he's mad with love of God, though he's God in disguise, he walks just like a drunken elephant and rolls his eyes. It's like Balaram, you know. The coward rod he carries is his weapon to destroy whatever ills and evils wicked Kali can deploy. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Okay, we'll go on. Unequaled in his love for Krishna, he's a vast abode of transcendental mellows only God has ever showed. For all his devotees he's everything, and for his wives, Shri Vasudha and Janavi, he is their very lives. Since love for Krishna makes him mad, his actions may seem odd, and so the foolish fail to see that he himself is God. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Most dear to Sachi's son, he is a reservoir of bliss. Throughout the universe, he's worshipped with great happiness. Impelled by deep compassion, when he sees the state therein, he saves the people sinking fast in Kali's sea of sin, by teaching them to chant the holy name with every breath, thus crushing the conceit of Durga's sea of birth and death. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Okay, text number 4. Now, he approaches Lord Chaitanya, right? He said, "Oh brother, Kali's now ascendant everywhere, increasing people's suffering. It's more than I can bear. Please give these fallen souls an easy process to attain the shelter of your lotus feet, the place beyond all pain." So Lord Chaitanya answers, "Instruct them all to chant Shri Krishna's name." The Lord replied, "To worship him with love and by his teachings to abide. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree." Now, he's going around to all the homes, and here's what he says. "O brother, kindly chant Shri Krishna's name incessantly, and also teach this process to your friends and family. Thus cross the sea of birth and death, and be supremely blessed. Your liberation is the only alms that I request. Entreating thus to save the people from illusion's thrall, with arms embraced he went to every home throughout Bengal. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree." Now, I have to tell you a little bit about Vedic culture, otherwise you won't understand. There's so many Munis and personalities that you have to learn about, but actually it gets kind of complicated. So one of them is Agastya Muni. Now Agastya Muni, you have to know two things, because he's always used in analogy. If you keep that door closed, please. Agastya Muni was born from a pot, and he once drank the whole ocean, right? Those who know Vedic, he once drank the ocean. So now you'll understand. A new Agastya Muni, with great force he drinks the sea of birth and death. How loving and compassionate is he. For all his devotees he is the best of rising moons, expanding wide the ocean of all full of transcendental boons. And for the many demons filling people's hearts with dread, he is the sun dispelling all the darkness that they spread. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. He wandered every path in Bengal, chanting Hari Bol. His dancing and his singing bringing joy to every soul. He put aside his own concerns to spread the holy name, thus mercifully fulfilling Sri Chaitanya's preaching aim. On seeing saintly devotees, he felt great happiness, and with his mercy-laden glance, he filled their hearts with bliss. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free. Just worship Nityananda around the root of the bhakti tree. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free. Just worship Nityananda around the root of the bhakti tree. Now, this verse describes this pastime. You have to, sometimes they were both dressed in yellow, gold, and whatever. So this is Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya dancing around Navadvip, Vrindavan, Bengal. He gently took his brother's soft and graceful lotus hand, and as he looked upon his face, he felt his bliss expand. Chaitanya felt the same way as he looked upon the face of Nityananda, and he held him in a firm embrace. And then they started dancing through the streets of all the towns, their beauty filling every heart with joy that knew no bounds. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutch, yearning to break free. Just worship Nityananda around the root of the bhakti tree. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free. Just worship Nityananda around the root of the bhakti tree. Now, there's a blessing verse, 9th verse. That was 8 verses. Now comes the Palashruti, which is what you get if you hear this. For Nityananda's devotees who relish mellow sweet, this poem is a precious nectar reservoir replete with endless waves and whirlpools of the sweetest, deepest love, beyond what even gods and goddesses are dreaming of. It has the power to deliver any fallen soul and place him at Sri Nityananda's feet, our final goal. May those who hear these transcendental verses I impart forever see his lovely lotus feet within their heart. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free. And around the root of the bhakti tree. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free. Just worship Nityananda around the root of the bhakti tree. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. And now I think it's time for our next engagement, which is Mahaprasadam.